Welcome into Cougar Tracks here on the KSL Sports YouTube and KSL News Radio, your legacy home of the Cougars. I am your BYU insider, Mitch Harper. It's Wednesday, December 24th. Merry Christmas Eve to everyone out there. Hopefully you have a happy and safe Merry Christmas. However you're celebrating, appreciate you for always supporting this show, Cougar Tracks, every single day, talking BYU sports daily. And with all the news that's happening with BYU football, I felt it was critical to hop on, even on Christmas, to discuss BYU getting ready for the Pop-Tarts Bowl without their star player.
The top story of the day. The biggest story in the world of BYU sports right here on Cougar Tracks.
The Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year, BYU star running back LJ Martin, will be out for the Pop-Tarts Bowl this Saturday against Georgia Tech. Kickoff at 1:30 p.m. on KSL News Radio and ABC. Extended pregame here on News Radio begins at 10 a.m. It's a massive absence for BYU football. And look, LJ's been dealing with the shoulder injury since the Iowa State game that he suffered in October. And the fact that he was able to still play at an incredibly high level, you go back to that Cincinnati game, he was brilliant. Still dealing with the shoulder injury speaks to the toughness of LJ Martin. But head coach Kalani Sitake announced down in Orlando at bowl practice that LJ would be out for this bowl game, and this was Kalani after Pop-Tarts Bowl practice.
We're going to have to lean on some of the young guys, and obviously we have some great depth on the team, and with LJ not being able to play in this game, I think everybody kind of knows that there was a small window for him to get the surgery done. And so, his decision is going to be whether he comes back and plays his senior year or whether he goes to the NFL. And so, with that in mind, there's a small window where he could have the surgery done now, or if he had to wait, then it would prolong it too long, where it wouldn't be beneficial for him either way. So, with that being said, he's been with us the entire time in the practices. He's recovering at home right now, but then he'll be back out here to watch these guys and cheer on his brothers on Saturday. So bearing those guys, we're going to have to rely on some depth in the running back room, but for the most part, we should have a lot of the guys. Some guys are still nursing some injuries, and they'll need this prep this week to get ready for the game.
Good breakdown by head coach Kalani Sitake on LJ Martin, but it's a massive absence. Look at the stat line on LJ this year. 1,305 rushing yards, 12 touchdowns, 236 carries, 5.5 yards per carry. LJ was a superstar this year. Said it all season. The season will go as far as LJ Martin will take it, and he took it the distance nearly and got BYU almost single-handedly to the college football playoff. Now the question becomes, who does BYU turn to in this Pop-Tarts Bowl? And before I get to that, though, let's clear up some confusion. This isn't an opt-out by LJ Martin. As you heard from Kalani Sitake, there's still a decision that LJ is going to make, whether or not to come back to BYU or go to the NFL. The timing is unfortunate. If it was the college football playoff, he probably gut checks it and plays. But in this spot where you're looking long-term, whether it's NFL or BYU in 2026, try to get healthy as soon as possible so then you can get back and have a normal offseason, whether it's in the pros or with BYU in the senior campaign. So there's still a decision to be made for LJ. I think people are looking at the depth chart and seeing LJ's out and thinking this is an opt-out. That's not the case. LJ is a really kind, humble guy. If he could play, he'd play. I really believe that. This wouldn't be some sort of opt-out to just get out of the game and not finish the job. BYU is a program better than most when it comes to avoiding opt-outs. Guys like to get things finished, which is refreshing because I think the bowl season is under so much scrutiny, which I don't know if it's fair or not. I think sometimes we're trying to romanticize something with the bowl season that, this is what's always kind of been, where it's not what it once was, I believe, because I think there's more education involved. There's more people chattering into these players' ears, whether it's agents, whether it's family, getting visions of money in the horizon with the portal. There's so much getting at these players where back in the 80s and 90s, early 2000s, you just didn't have this much info and this much opportunity for bigger paydays in the future. So I think it was just, you line it up, you go play the game. That's what you did, and we all enjoyed bowl season. I still enjoy the bowl season, but it obviously doesn't slap the same way as it once did. But LJ, he's underwent surgery. Hopefully his timeline includes returning to BYU. That would be great. But if it goes to the NFL, which I wouldn't fault him one bit, because I think his draft stock will be higher than it's ever going to be unless he completely replicates what he did this year and then some, and maybe that includes getting BYU to the college football playoff next season. We shall see. Circling back to that question I asked earlier, who's next? The depth chart was released this week, and Sione Moa was noticeably absent from the depth chart, because without LJ Martin, you would assume Sione Moa, who returned after 3 months away in that Big 12 championship game, he would get the starting nod. Well, he's not listed. And could it be precautionary? To be determined there. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if maybe Sione went through pregame warmups to see if there was an opportunity, but he's not listed on the depth chart. He's at bowl practices. He's down there in Orlando with the team, but he's not on the depth chart. So it leaves you with a trio of Enoch Nawahine, Jovesa Damuni, and Preston Rex as the three guys that are going to expected to carry the workload for BYU against Georgia Tech on Saturday in the Pop-Tarts Bowl. And this was Aaron Roderick on the depth after LJ Martin at that running back position in preparation for Saturday's bowl game in the Pop-Tarts Bowl.
Well, I do have confidence in those guys, but anytime you're missing the Big 12 Player of the Year, that's going to be a big loss. We went into every game this year saying LJ has to carry the ball 20 times, and then everything else follows. That's what kind of player he is. And so with the other guys, it's going to be by committee. We're going to spread the ball around and see if one of them gets hot, then maybe they'll get more carries. But right now we kind of have a plan to use all three of those guys. But I do have confidence in them, and I'm excited, especially, we kind of know what Enoch's been around and done a lot of good things for us over the years. I'm excited to see Jovesa play. It's time to find out who Jovesa is and what he can do for us in the future. And he has some juice. He has speed and makes some plays in practice sometimes that you think, okay, that's going to show up in a real game when his time comes. But it wasn't quite his time yet because we've been trying to get the ball to LJ so much. So I'm excited to see what Jovesa does.
Interesting commentary there from BYU offensive coordinator Aaron Roderick. Keep in mind, the three running backs that I noted, Enoch Nawahine, Jovesa Damuni, and Preston Rex, a combined 40 carries for 143 rushing yards this season. A-Rod, speaking about Jovesa Damuni, very interesting, 6 foot, 190-pound redshirt freshman at a Ridgeline High School, second year in the program for Jovesa. And remember, Jovesa had that fumble. I don't want to say catastrophic fumble, but it was a fumble that led to points for West Virginia. BYU, remember that game, General Conference weekend, they won 38-24 against a bad West Virginia team, but let the Mountaineers hang around. Probably should have been a 38-10 game. Instead, it ends up being 38-24, and part of that was due to Jovesa's fumble setting up a touchdown for the Mountaineers. And after that West Virginia game, we didn't see Jovesa until the UCF game, the regular season finale in Provo. To Roderick's point about the speed of Jovesa, I did see that in spring ball last March as well. Damuni's got some juice to him. He's got some speed, some ability. But when you get in one of your few touches, only 12 carries this season for Jovesa, 63 rushing yards, 5.3 per pop, 3 catches, 25 yards. But one of those 12 carries is a fumble, and a disastrous one at that. It raises some concern. it raises some doubt. But I do like the thought, potentially, of playing Javesa DeMooney and Preston Rex, guys that have remaining eligibility, and seeing what you got. Because you have to look at the future of the running back position. At a maximum, you've only got 1 year of LJ. 1 year from now, assuming if he comes back, that's it. And then LJ's gone. So you've only got 12 months at a maximum of LJ. Might be just a week left with LJ. And we might have seen his last game played with LJ Martin if he goes on to the NFL. But at a maximum, he's got 12 months left. That's not very far. You've got to build up the running back pipeline for this program. It is very thin right now. And this would be a great opportunity to really get a sense of what Javesa DeMooney is. And if he doesn't pass this test, well, maybe you really know what it is. And I say that too because Georgia Tech's defense, not very good. The rush defense for Georgia Tech this season, poor, 93rd nationally. And you dive into the numbers, they've given up more than 150 yards on the ground to their opponents in 9 of the last 10 games. They give up a lot of yards on the ground. And I still think a big piece to this for BYU on the ground is going to rest on Bear Bachmeier. And Bear's coming in not probably 100%. He acknowledged earlier in bowl practices, he's working towards getting to 90, 100%, whatever that means in his definition. He's working towards that because he was clearly limping after that or during that Big 12 championship game with the ankle, and he missed some of the early bowl practices with a boot on in Provo. He did practice, though, and now he's practicing in Orlando. But Georgia Tech's defense is not great, both through the air and on the ground. Particularly on the ground, though. They give up a lot of yards. The only game since September 13th when they played Clemson, Duke, the ACC champ, they were the only team that couldn't run for much on Georgia Tech. They had 68 yards on the ground, Duke did. That was on October 18th. Everyone else, they're pretty much running for at least 150, and more often than not, it's 170 plus. You're getting some 200-yard games in there as well. Wake Forest ran for 210. NC State, Georgia Tech's first loss of the season, they gashed the Yellow Jackets for 243 on the ground. It's not a great defense. And if Javesa and Preston Rex don't have success here, well, you kind of, at a minimum, you got to get some transfer portal running backs regardless. I firmly believe that. I mean, I look at that guy at Iowa State, Carson Hansen. Go get that dude at all costs. And maybe that's a situation where he's already lining it up to go play for Penn State at Matt Campbell and all that, and it would make all the sense in the world. That dude's a baller. And maybe he doesn't want to run the risk of being a 1-2 tandem again like he was with Iowa State. But imagine a backfield with LJ Martin and Carson Hansen. Ooh, buddy. Ooh, that would be really nice. I'd be all over that one if I was BYU going to get Hansen. That would be me. You got to get some portal guys no matter what because this running back unit is light. Some other running backs on the roster, they're not listed on the depth chart. I've said before in the past, I really like Logan Payne, 5'10", 215 pounds. And look, if Javesa doesn't pan out, if Enoch Nawahine doesn't pan out, if Preston Rex doesn't pan out in this game, just play them all. Play Miska, play Payne, play any of them. Play all these guys because at the end of the day, just try to get some sense of what your personnel looks like for 2026. To me, I'd almost rather go with the underclassmen. You appreciate Enoch Nawahine. You respect what he's done, and it would be a great senior moment to cap off the season with a nice day for Nawahine. But what does that lead to you long term? Let this be an opportunity to really build something for 2026, because if you win and Javesa DeMooney and Preston Rex or Logan Payne or whoever it is give you something on the ground, you feel pretty good about things. You feel like, okay, they're not going to necessarily be RB1, RB2, but you feel like, okay, you've got a little bit more depth. some guys that you could count on, some proof of concept that might say, hey, you could turn to them in a pinch in Big 12 play potentially next year, because injuries always happen. If LJ Martin comes back, I know he played every game this year, but still, he was dealing with a shoulder. Every year in his career, he's dealt with some injuries. It's the running back position in any power league. You need depth. So get a real sense of who these guys are coming out of this bowl game. But again, a lot of this game will rest on Bear Bachmeier. And Georgia Tech's pass defense, is not great. About 83rd nationally. Pass defense for the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, they've given up a lot of yards as of late. 373 to Duke, 224 to Syracuse, 340 to NC State, 362 to Boston College, 226 to Pitt. Only 70 yards to the air to Georgia. Bear, to me, I don't want to run him as much as they've ran him in the past. I think people look at this game now and see the headline of LJ being out and just say, all is lost, it's over for BYU. I thought there was a greater doomsday spot when they took on Iowa State in October, and LJ goes out at the end of the first quarter. That, to me, was doomsday spot because you had no time to prepare. You had to adjust on the fly, and you still won that game, and Bear put up one of his best passing days of the season, throwing for 307 yards against Iowa State. That, to me, was a trickier spot than this. I've seen BYU muster up some wins in bowl games with less than ideal personnel groupings. New Mexico Bowl 2022. So it can be done, even without LJ Martin. You probably lean to the passing attack, and you hope you can have an effective ground attack, considering Georgia Tech has not been good stopping the run. But Bear is going to be critical. I don't want to run him too much, though. I know it's part of his DNA. It's a part of the identity of what this offense is, but you've got to think long-term. You have to think long-term. Bear is the face of the program. You cannot afford to have him experience a setback health-wise for this game. So I'm not running him as much if I was Aaron Roderick. That would be me. I'm turning to the air. I'm relying on my offensive line to protect him and then running the football, whether it's jet sweeps with Kingston, bunch of different stuff. I mean, get creative with the thing, but try to avoid Bear taking hits. Considering the beating he took against Texas Tech, don't give him unnecessary hits if you can avoid it. That would be my recommendation. But if Bear can take shots downfield, that would be huge, because remember that Texas Tech game, he was struggling to get the ball downfield. That was a real issue for this team. And if he can throw it downfield, I like BYU's chances still to win this game, potentially. I'll give my score prediction coming up on Friday, December 26th, the day before the game. But I don't think this game is completely, it's all lost because LJ's gone. I've always said this year that the season will go as far as LJ takes it, but there's nuance in bowl games. Bowl games are just different. And the motivation factor, I think it's kind of split down the middle between these two teams. It's a hard read on both sides. I kind of question the real motivation on both sides. So that's kind of a wash to me in this matchup. I feel like both teams are pretty equal. I think BYU's the better team, but I think both teams have some similar characteristics, and the coaches pointed to that earlier today. I think BYU, though, has the clear upper hand. Their defense is excellent, but Georgia Tech's offensive attack with Haynes King is excellent as well, running the football. It's a good matchup. But I think BYU can still find a way to win this game. This might be a defensive battle, potentially. Could be. It wouldn't seem that way with Georgia Tech, their statistical profile, but I'm sure there'll be some drives where BYU's offense struggles. A little bit of a feeling out. There's always again, bowl games are strange. What you knew about a team during the regular season doesn't necessarily apply to the bowl season. It just doesn't. There's a long gap. It's awkward. It's weird. It's over Christmas break. I mean, heck, BYU, they're at Disney World today. Tomorrow for Christmas, they are at Universal. It's not a typical game week. It's not a typical work week that you would experience on a Thursday or a Wednesday in preparation for a usual game. Again, bowls are weird. So why not get weird? You got an edible mascot. You've got tarts. You've got all this. I mean, the Pop-Tarts Bowl is the definition of weird. You're eating a mascot as a championship prize. It's the People's National Championship. Let's go. So BYU will have to adjust without LJ Martin. I think they can. I think they can still find a way to get it done. I will give you my score prediction coming up on Friday. And again, extended pregame coverage begins on Saturday, 10 a.m. on KSL NewsRadio. Myself and Kyle Ireland, we will have you covered for the Cougars and the Yellow Jackets in the Pop-Tarts Bowl 2025 edition, the People's National Champion. Last 2 years, it's been a Big 12 team to win this game. Kansas State, then Iowa State. Now BYU looks to continue that trend of winning the People's National Championship. That'll do it for this edition of Cougar Tracks. Again, I'm going to take tomorrow off. Merry Christmas to everyone. We'll be back at it on Friday with a game preview of BYU versus Georgia Tech in the Pop-Tarts Bowl. Have a Merry Christmas. Talk to you on Friday as we get ready for the weekend ahead. As BYU football gets set to close out the 2025 season, we've got you covered here on Cougar Tracks. It's powered by KSL Sports.